Welcome to another episode of the Financial Armor Show. My name is Brad Cooper, the CEO of Cooper Financial Investments. Welcome to our show today, and as always, welcome our amazing co-host Tony Shore. How you doing today, Tony?
Oh, I am so good. If I was any better, my name would be CJ Eagar. I think that's how's that sound?
Boy, that would be doing great and awesome. That's what we're all aspiring to.
No, I'm doing great. I've had a great week. Trying to keep my dad in check. He's 81. Parkinson's,
Yes,
got a few cognitive things, trying to make a break for it from the assisted living. So I had to go down there. You know how it is.
I
My
do.
parents are great, though. I love them so much. And trying to take care of them. And my wife and I had a great Minnesota winter walk, a candlelight walk at night along the river in Stillwater, Minnesota. It was beautiful. So I just did that this past weekend. A little chilly, but
I was
was
going to say, is
great.
that possible in Minnesota
It
in
is. We walked
January?
1 mile there and 1 mile back on the Gateway Trail. The Minnesota
Wow.
Parks puts it on, and it's candlelit, and they have hot cocoa and hot cider. So that was fun. But Brad, how have you been?
I'm doing great. I can relate, Tony. And, we'll probably talk a little bit about this topic in today's show, but, same issue with my mom. Unfortunately, my dad passed away about 2 years ago, but he was in
Yeah.
a nursing home for several years. But, it's, I think they call this the sandwich generation where we're trying to take care of our kids, trying to take care of our parents. But I'm very thankful my mom's still alive and the visits we get to have on a regular basis.
That's
But
neat.
I'm really excited. Going into the new year, Tony, this is actually the first recording we're doing from our new office in Mesa, Arizona, in our media room. So
I love
excited
it.
about that, but more excited about the special guest we have today.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you got a huge get today. I mean, you normally get some pretty good guests on the show, but you got an A-lister for today's show, a huge guest. And for those who watch the show on video, unfortunately, going to make us look pretty bad, Brad, because Brad, you and I have a perfect face for radio. You know that.
That I've
Uh,
heard that many
but
times.
our guest today was made for video. And speaking of taking care of family, it's right up that alley, isn't it?
It is. The topic we're going to cover today, estate planning and really protecting and taking care of your family, whether it's your children, whether it's your parents, grandparents, nieces, nephews, it doesn't matter. And this topic is dear to me. But before we get started, we've had CJ on in the past and really thankful and excited he's on today. But a little bit about CJ. I met CJ about 10 years ago when I moved to beautiful, sunny Arizona and got out of the cold, miserable weather in Missouri at that time. And when I met CJ, I just like said, thank God I finally found, after 20 years, an attorney that shares the same morals, values, and likes that we do. And more importantly than that, the expertise and also how he treats his clients, how he treats our clients, and makes it very easy. And I'm very thankful for this relationship. But welcome, CJ. How you doing today?
Hey, thank you so much, guys. I'm so excited to be here. I tell everyone I'm typically the biggest nerd in the room because I love talking estate planning. It is something so important that we all need to discuss. So grateful to be here and visit with you guys here just momentarily.
Well, let's just briefly, Brad, before we jump in, let's let our listeners know, CJ, um, uh, who you are, what you do,
Yeah,
and why we're having you on the show today.
great question. So I'm one of the owners of Copper Canyon Law. We're based out of Mesa, Arizona as well. We service the entire Arizona region. We're all licensed attorneys here. We started out as a little firm, and over the years of just trying to do what's right by people, we have grown really rapidly. We've got a fleet of stellar attorneys and legal assistants that help our clients. So happy to help out. We like Brad said, we've kind of tried to build a law firm that's a little unconventional. And most people, when they hear they're going to talk with a lawyer, they kind of cringe a little bit. I want to be the lawyer that I would want to meet with myself. And so we do that. We meet with people for free. No consultation fees, and we just make sure that we're giving the same exact answers. I say this all the time. You are going to get the same exact answer my own mother would get from me because there's some things that you just don't need to sell. And estate planning, we don't need to sell estate planning. There's right answers for you and there's wrong ones. And our aim is to get you in the right spot.
That's awesome. And you've been an estate planning attorney for a long time now, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting there. Yeah, we've been Copper Canyon Law just hit its 8 or 9 year mark, and then I've been practicing estate planning for 13, 14 years now. So it's
Really?
been a good
Did
road.
you
Yeah,
start when you were 10? Because you don't look a
It
day over
feels that way.
25.
That's right.
You don't look
I
a day
know.
over 25. So
well, thank you. But yeah, it's been a great road, and I've been around long enough. It's kind of funny. I have a lot of clients come to me and say, I'm hiring you because you're a little bit younger. And normally in industry, it's the opposite. But a lot of people want an estate planning attorney that's going to be around for a long time to make sure that their estate plan is seen through, which a lot of times that doesn't happen. So we're here for you.
and that knows the reason I like to me, you're just at the right age because sometimes I'm worried there have been so many changes. And between using technology and the changes to estate planning laws and estate laws, and step up and base, understanding how all the things work with the world we currently live in, with long-term care being so prevalent. And I just think that sometimes you have an edge over maybe some of the older attorneys.
Yeah, sometimes. And yeah.
And with attorneys, CJ, I'm just curious in the financial service industry, in the next 5 years, every study that's been done and the reports we're reading, there's going to be a mass exodus of financial planners, financial advisors in our industry. The average age is, I think, early 60s for the average financial advisor. Is that true in your industry also?
Yeah, I think there is, it's interesting over the last, I'd say probably 15 years, during the Great Recession, there was a massive uptick in people that were applying to professional fields. And that happened. But so you'd think there would be a huge surplus of people doing these kind of professional services like legal work.
Right.
Not shockingly though, many fell off, right? They got into the industry, actually weren't quite sure what they were doing and have fallen off. Kind of, you see that a lot in like with realtors and things like that. People get a professional degree and they fade off really fast. We've seen that happen. And in an age where technology is replacing a lot of in-person services more than ever over the next 20 years, I predict a massive need for live in-person advisors who will actually give you straight answers as opposed to clicking buttons on a computer.
So what you're saying, AI isn't going to replace you?
I honestly don't think so.
No.
That's a huge worry in our industry. But
Right.
I tell all of my clients who go on and use online legal services, I'm not a hater of those. Actually, I'm a DIY guy. I like doing DIY
Right.
work. But I'm telling you, and I'm saying this with all sincerity of heart to your listeners here, I have yet to, and I'm not a snooty lawyer. I don't stick my nose up at work. If it's good, it's good, right? We don't need to reinvent everything that comes across our desk. But I cannot tell you 100% of the online estate plans we have reviewed, we're missing one or multiple critical elements of an estate plan. That's not even me being snooty. I'm just able to quickly point it
Right.
out. Oh, did you know you're missing this, and this that were critical elements to your estate plan? They said, well, I had no clue. Well, of course you didn't, because the computer wasn't giving you good feedback when you were clicking the buttons. So I'm not worried about AI. I really am not. At the end of the day, you need somebody who knows your family, knows those interpersonal skills to get a plan that actually makes sense.
Absolutely. I feel the same way too in our industry, CJ, because I get asked often, is AI going to replace, financial planners and advisors? My answer is no. I mean, I believe whether it's the baby boomer generation or, the younger generation, it doesn't matter. When you're looking at this important topic, whether it's financial planning, estate planning, they want someone to talk to face. And I always think about all the advancement in technology and how trusting would you be to fly in an airplane with no pilot? all computer generated. Could it be done? Yes.
Right.
But how, would you like that? I wouldn't. Just
Right.
having
Nope.
that tangible person there is important. But well, hey, CJ, as we get into a new year, 2025, what's some of the big changes that you are seeing that really our listeners need to know? And that's
Yeah.
there's some changes that have been happening over the past year or two. And as we do speaking engagements together, CJ, it seems like when we ask the audience a lot of these questions, not too many people are familiar with some of the changes.
Yeah, great question. So I'd be happy to use just a few minutes here to go over
Yes.
just what I'm seeing. And for those of you who already have an estate plan or an estate planning attorney or an advisor that you work with, I know you get this itch to say, hey, I need to call my advisor because I need to check in. And that's good. You're being smart to check in. Um, Let me just give you a few things that we're seeing that you would want to be aware of slipping into 2025 here. First and foremost, the big elephant in the room was that there were, with the Secure Act that passed 4 or 5 years ago, there were some changes that extended the federal estate tax. Okay, so for all you listeners who don't know, every state has an estate tax that will be assessed on your estate if you die, and there's a federal estate tax as well. So depending on what state you live on, you'd always want to be aware of what your state will assess. We're here in sunny Arizona. Arizona has no estate tax, so we love that. Despite the fact that we have no estate tax, we need to be aware that there is a federal estate tax out there. Well, as part of that Secure Act and other financial laws that were passed, the federal estate tax was pushed pretty high, and for middle America, that's a good thing.
Right.
For when that estate tax goes higher, that gets further away from our tax brackets. So right now, a person can have up to over $13.6 million without getting assessed any estate tax when you die. Most of our clients that we talk with, they kind of laugh when we say that number. They say, "Oh, CJ, well that next topic, because that's not an issue for me." What most Americans need to be aware of is that law was supposed to sunset or go away, and when those laws goes away, there is a table that exists that number will reset to. If that law sunsets away at the end of 2025, now, instead of 13.6 million being the threshold, that threshold could move all the way down to as low as $5, $6, $7 million, which again, some people say, well, that's not a big deal. But you'd be surprised. A lot of middle America, you own a home that you've paid off over the years. You've got retirement. You've got a rental home maybe, or things like that. Those funds add up really fast. Life insurance policies and the like.
Right.
That number could even go lower. And if it does, that's really, really getting close to middle America. So what most Americans need to be aware of is over the year 2025, I know it's hard to pay attention when you're watching Bloomberg TV for fun, but just listen to that number. If you hear the word estate tax or inheritance tax or death tax at the federal level, pay attention to what number they say. Are they saying, oh, it's at 5 million now, or it's at 4 million or 3 million? If it gets that low, and maybe between all of your life savings, you're getting closer to that number, that's where you need to, your ears should be burning a little bit. And you should say, maybe I need to talk to an estate planning attorney. There are ways that we can structure your assets to avoid hefty estate taxes that could be assessed when you die. So that's the big thing we're telling folks is pay really close attention to that federal estate tax number over the coming 11 months. That's the first thing.
Yeah, federal and state. I know my dad inherited farmland,
Yeah,
right?
huge.
And the problem is there's no liquidity. He gets no money, but he has this farmland, which is
Right.
very valuable, right? And
Yeah.
so they look at it and go, oh, that farmland's worth, $1 million or $2 million. And it could get up to easily the overall farm. If he had gotten the whole thing and hadn't split it out, it was over $6 million worth.
Right.
And then the state said, we want taxes on that full $6 million.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
okay, well, that's crazy.
So especially if you have assets in other states, for sure, talk with a good tax advisor or an estate planning attorney in each state and kind of make an assessment on what you're really looking at.
But is it also if you're inheriting or leaving a business, a farm is like a business, but even anywhere in the U.S., if you have a business, federal estate tax can take a piece of that if you leave that, right?
Yeah, so that's funny you mentioned the farm. I just had a client last week who came in whose spouse died unexpectedly, and her husband had a farm that was in a business, right? The farm was owned by the business.
Sure.
He passed away, and that business was being assessed for that farmland. So yeah, there's just weird little things that, again, all of us, maybe half of your listeners heard the numbers that we're throwing around here and they're just laughing at us, right? Like, oh, come on. That's not relevant. You'd be shocked how quickly these numbers become relevant to middle America. I'm right there with
my
you.
parents had no money. My parents
Right.
had no money.
Right.
And
Land
then
rich,
they
that's poor.
and then they inherit the family farm, and then all of a sudden there's tax problem. Then all of a sudden you're looking at what's that threshold, if you have more than 3 million worth of assets in the state of Minnesota, they're gonna, you get hit with a huge tax penalty.
That's
And
exactly
just
right.
to give you an example of that, back in the 90s, the estate tax exemption was 600,000. Then it jumped up to $1 million.
Yeah.
So let's just use $1 million for an example for our listeners. Let's say the exemption amount is $1 million. You and your spouse pass away. Between all the value of your home and brokerage accounts, life insurance, and anything else, let's say that's $4 million. So you're actually 3 million over. So right now the estate tax is 40%.
Right.
So 40 times 3 million, $120 million of taxes. That's how a lot of these farmers that have had land and farms for centuries, decades after decades, how the kids lost the farm because they could not afford to pay the estate tax. So they had to sell the farm.
Yeah, they homesteaded the land. They were the first person. My family has been on that land since 1855.
1855.
And
Wow.
probably lose it with my dad because of long-term care and because of taxes.
Yep.
And so, why now? Why didn't long-term care or taxes? Why didn't any of the past generations face the same problem? But it's a new problem, and there are new problems this year with the laws. So that's why we're talking about what's changed, right?
That's exactly right. So hopefully all you listeners out there, just I know it's such a boring topic and you probably feel like it doesn't have anything to do with you, but it really does. And your loved ones across the country, in some states, the state estate tax can be critically low. I mean, very, very low. So just be aware that that's a real problem across the country. So that's probably the first thing I'd point out that's kind of on all of our minds, us estate planners out there. That's on our minds. We're paying close attention to that. The second thing I'd bring up, I know we're short on time here, but the second thing I would bring up today is to make sure that is relevant to all listeners. If you're listening to this, you have to pay attention to this. So if you have an estate plan already, you'll notice in that portfolio of yours, there's probably a financial power of attorney and a medical power of attorney and things like that. That's great. Those powers of attorney allow you or someone to step in and speak on your behalf or transact on your behalf if you became incapacitated. Not if you die. If you die, it's no longer valid. But if you become mentally incapacitated, somebody can speak or act on your behalf. Come with me to dementia, Parkinson's, things like that. Well, those financial powers of attorney are critical to have in place before you receive your dementia diagnosis, right? Well, we have been noticing a common theme among many, many financial institutions. They are not wanting to honor powers of attorney that are older than 5-10 years. And we just ran into one the other day that said they will not take a financial power of attorney older than 5 years. Now, is that what the law says? No, the law says the power of attorney is valid for as long as the duration of the document says it is, which ours are open-ended. They say they're open and valid always. Well, we are getting a lot of financial institutions turning these away. That the year mark that we hear the most common is 10 years. They say if this document is older than 10 years, we will not honor it. Again, it's not what the law says, but that's what these institutions are saying. That could be a huge mess. So we're encouraging our clients, if you're getting up there in retirement years and it's been a long time since you have updated your documents, we don't want you to waste your money. We don't want you going around updating your documents every 2 years. That's not what we want. However, those financial powers of attorney, they're 5, 6, 7 years old or older. It might be worth just a tiny little investment to refresh those from time to time, just to make sure that they're up to speed. That's another huge thing we've been seeing here in 2025 already.
Yes, just to add to that, CJ, which is great information because that's a question we ask everyone who comes to our office. When's the last time that you had an update with your estate plan? The average answer I get is more than 10 years. And then, secondly, the number two thing you should be doing at the same time is what CJ and I call a beneficiary audit. Of course, each year goes by, you maybe have sold your home, maybe bought, made a different purchase, sold your business. And it's so critical what your beneficiary designations on all of your accounts state. Whether you have a will or a trust, that makes all the difference.
It's huge. It's huge, especially, your bank accounts, investment accounts, even like we see deed work. People prepare their deeds in a way to be inherited successfully outside of probate. A lot of people don't realize if you refinance your home, refinancing your house, it could be a good thing. What did everybody do in 2019, 2020? Everybody refinanced their
I
houses. The
did.
rates were ditto. Me too.
Yep.
Everybody refinanced their houses. Well, the number one reason I am opening probate in 2024, 2025, our elderly clients are passing away. Their kids are coming in and their home was not in their trust or a beneficiary deed was not effectuated. And we say, what happened? And they say, we don't know. We thought it was in mom and dad's trust. The house was. And then I ask them every time before I even see the paperwork, I say, out of curiosity, did your mom and dad refinance their house back in 2020? They go, yes, they did. And I say, yeah, see, when they
Yes.
refinanced the house, they booted it out of the trust. And most of these title companies, they won't tell the client they did that. So the client just goes on thinking, oh, yeah, my house is in my trust. Little did they know it got booted out, and they never were told that it got booted out. And then, of course, we have to go through probate years later.
Well, CJ, here's a simple question. May sound dumb, but how do you put, because I had this question not too long ago, how do you put a house in a trust? And when you do so, are you changing the ownership of the house to the trust name?
Oh, such a good question. Okay, so there's really two ways to put a house into a trust. First requirement is you need to have a trust. Okay, good. So you have a
Yes.
trust. Now, secondly, how do we get our house into it? This is the most critical step that so many people forget when they form a trust. When you form a trust, you need to create a deed that will deed the ownership over into the trust. And there are two ways to do that. One is what I call a direct deed, right? We are actually transferring ownership over into the name of the trust. And if you look it up on the county records, it'll show, the Eagar family trust or whatever, right? So that's the first way to do that, and make sure you do that. Who can do that for you? Well, if you're a DIY person, maybe you could pull off a deed yourself, or go talk to a title company. They can do it for you, or your estate planning attorney. We're typically, I actually am cheaper than most
True.
title companies anyway. So call me and I'll knock it out for you. But the second way to do it, which is a little unconventional than most people are used to, there's a deed in Arizona, and other states as well have similar deeds, called a beneficiary deed. This is a deed where you can list who the beneficiary will be once the grantors or the owners die. So, for example, if my wife and I owned our house, we could do a beneficiary deed over to the Eagar family trust. And it says when my wife and I die, ownership is automatically triggered over to our trust. Now, some people say, why do that? Why not just do an automatic one? Here's one little benefit. If you do those beneficiary deeds, then even if you ever refinanced your house or somebody put a lien on your property or a mechanic's lien or any title issues that happen in your lifetime, it would never remove that beneficiary deed from your house. So you could refinance 1,000 times. That beneficiary deed will be sitting there, filed with the county, ready to spring into action when you die. That's one little benefit of doing the beneficiary deed. There's pros and cons to either way, but that's one little secret that we like to do. Someone says, no, I know. I refinance my house every 4 or 5 years for a business plan or a strategy, whatever. That's fine. We may want to just do a beneficiary deed to make sure that it's never booted out of the trust inadvertently. So those are the two ways to get a house into a trust.
Great job. Well, I know, wow, today has gone very, very quickly,
Yeah.
which I knew it would. And we could probably talk another hour just on some other issues. So we're definitely going to have you on in the very, very near future, CJ. But, let our listeners know, CJ, your contact information, if they want to just reach out to you, if they have any questions. That's what I love about our relationship with Copper Canyon Law and CJ and his team. They do exactly what our team does at Cooper Financial. They will offer a no obligation free consultation. And that's not heard of too much in the attorney world per se. Most of them will start a stopwatch as soon as you call them and charge you by the second. But CJ,
Right.
I know Copper Canyon doesn't. So why don't you share your information with our listeners if they have any questions?
Yeah. So for any Cooper Financial clients that call in, we will do a free consultation for you. And we're not talking just not just a getting to know you or let's talk about your pets. We're going to actually get into some substantive information during that free consultation. You might be shocked how many answers you walk away with on that first consultation. So we will do that for any Cooper Financial clients. You can get a hold of us. Our contact is 480-664-8080. That's to get a hold of the estate planning team at our firm. We actually do a lot of areas of law. I head up the estate planning division. So that's our direct line there. Or you can go to our website, coppercanyonlaw.com, and feel free to reach out to us. We'll get you that free consultation set up real quick.
Great. Well, thanks, CJ. And if you have questions from today's show, or you can also go to financialarmorshow.com and ask any questions of me, CJ, or the amazing co-host, Tony Shore. If you have any personal questions for him, or you can call our office, 888-390-5277. Again, that's 888-390-5277. So, CJ, thank you so much for your time today. And I know you're a busy man, and I know there's so much more that we'll continue on our next show that we can talk about. And Tony, thank you for your time as well.
Oh, no problem. CJ, I always learn a lot when we have you on
Me
the show.
too.
So hopefully it'll be again soon. Estate planning is so important. You don't want to leave your family and loved ones in a bad situation or cause family disharmony by not having the proper ducks in a row regarding your estate plan. And that's where you come in, CJ, and you as well. Brad, I think it's so important you work with professionals like yourselves,
Right.
and you guys have a great team there. Well, thank you so much. And again, our number, if people want to call, again, is 888-390-5277. And that does it for today's episode of the Financial Armor Show with our host, Brad Cooper.